All right. Looks like we may be live as far as I can tell. So, hi everyone. How y'all doing this evening? Thanks for joining me for this ranking of all of the 90s series. Honestly, I didn't know what I was going to do tonight. Ran out of time, so we're doing the 90s because I already had all of the pictures and everything for the tier ranking from the animated 90s series. So yeah, that's why we're doing this tonight. But seems as though everyone's up for it, so yeah, I think it'll be good. I know that ideally I'm more of an 80s channel, but we'll do the 90s and see how it goes. And that means this weekend I'll be working on the animated 90s in film, try to get that one out. And also a new cartoonical analysis, because I haven't done one of those since the Mass Effect, or since the Mass Device episode. So I think it's time to do another one. Maybe I'll put a poll up for a few of the different miniseries or episodes that I'm considering, and you all can vote on it. Yeah, thanks, 10. I saw that. Yeah, looks like a rough weekend, so I get it. So we miss you, mine. Hope you're feeling better soon. But alrighty. So, anybody got anything to talk about this evening, or do you want to jump straight into this? As you can see here, by the ranking, that we have just a few episodes to go, or a few series to go through. Nothing too big. As long as you don't consider 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 times a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of series. A lot of series. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is going to be part 1. And there's definitely going to be a part 2. And more than likely part 3 of this one. So that being the case, let's just jump in, see how things go. Yeah, that's crazy, right? That's a whole lot of series, Trek. a lot to get to in this one. And we're going to start out with one of the 90s first entries in, I don't know about first entries, but one of the 90s entries in what used to be the Disney Afternoon with, oh yeah, thanks for your vote of confidence, 10. Although I do have to admit it's not misplaced. So yeah, I'll probably miss some. Somebody keep a list for me. I still haven't updated the animated 80s and film tier ranking. Ran out of time last week, but I'll get it done, and I'll post the link in the community so everyone can do their own list. But starting this one off, we've got the 101 Dalmatians animated series, which was a series about 101 dogs that essentially followed 3 of them. It was good enough, fun, had nice Disney animation, but nothing special, right? It was pretty basic for a Disney cartoon. Checked all their boxes, that was about it. And then we had, this one was a Nicktoon, right? 2 Stupid Dogs, which was a late Hanna-Barbera edition once they were acquired by Warner Brothers. And again, I mean, it was decent animation. Humor was a little lowbrow for me. I'm not much of that sort of humor guy, but I mean, it was good enough for what it was. No real complaints about it, but nothing special either. Oh, cool. Thanks, Cedric. But Bunch of Munch. Never saw it. Any of you guys ever seen it? I I don't even know who the guy in it was. I'd never heard of it before doing the animated 90s, so no idea about that one. And then this one I'm pretty confident was a Nicktoon with Real Monsters. And I came to this one pretty late. I don't remember ever really seeing it when it was on because I think it was later in the 90s. I've seen it since then. It's pretty good. It's a fun little show. Again, there's not a whole lot to it. It's pretty basic comedy cartoon, situational comedy, but still fun enough. And then we get to what is, in my opinion, the first meh on the list with Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, the animated series. Because in the early 90s, Jim Carrey had to be in everything. And so we got this animated series, we got the Mask animated series, just a lot of episodic nonsense. Yeah, I didn't like the representation of Ace in the cartoon compared to the live action. Not that I really loved him in the live action, but still better than the animated series. So to me, this one was pretty meh. But yeah, see, I knew he was a book author, but again, I never heard of the animated series. So, and it makes sense that it's kind of a weekend special thing too, Saturday. So thanks for that, both of you. Yeah, I remember that crossover. That was an interesting episode, but yeah, you're not missing anything, Trek. And here is this one I would kind of fluctuate between meh and good on this one. The live action segments in the show really make me lean toward meh because the Universal Studios stunt spectacular nature of the thing, I'm not really big into it. Some of the characters in it were fun. They were kind of cool designs and stuff. So I'd almost put it in good for the designs. I think I will. But yeah, I could also be convinced to put it in Matt Derlaxon because it was, it was what it was. But yeah, no doubt, Jim Carrey, he's almost too much of a living cartoon character to make him into an actual cartoon character. So, not for lack of trying, but I wasn't impressed with those results. Next, we have, well, another good series. The 90s Addams Family, pretty decent, but nothing better than good. It wasn't as good as the 70s version. Absolutely not as good as that one. And it wasn't as good as the movies that came out at the time. So it was a fun series. I enjoyed it, but it kind of sat in that limbo of, I don't know, to me, I always compared it to the live action series. And there was no Raul Julia and Angelica Houston and Christopher Lloyd. That's for sure. So fun show, just not as good as the other properties that surrounded it. Oh, this is true. We had the original Gomez, but Monsters cartoon would have been cool. Yeah. So this one I would hover between good and great, but I'm leaning more toward the good side because I just can't help but stack it up against the 90s Addams Family movies, and those were classic, awesome movies. So not much I can do to boost it up comparatively. But next up, we have an animated Bible series, and I don't think I ever watched it. Don't think I have since, but yeah, I've seen that animated special Saturday. It was interesting. I don't know. It wouldn't have been any better or worse than any of the other cartoons out there, but yeah, I don't know. So Yeah, Adventures from the Book of Virtues. This one is a Christian cartoon. I think it aired mostly on like ABC Family or something like that. Family Channel back as it used to be called, but I don't think I ever saw it. I don't really have any real interest in seeing it. So I'll leave that one down there on the never watched. But I'll happily hear everybody else's opinions if you have any. And next up we have The Adventures of Hyperman, which was based on the research I did for the animated 90s, some kind of an educational series, and another one that I never saw it. It was not something that was on my radar. I was absolutely not the right demographic for it at the time. 90s were, 12 to 18, something like that. So fell a little bit outside of this one. Now we have The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, the first of the Sonic cartoons from the 90s. And this one, again, was pretty good. It was, I think, younger aimed. Not the best Sonic animated series. We're actually going to get to that one a little later, but it was fun enough. We had a lot of baseline cartoons through the 90s. So the gems had to be real gems to stick out because the bar was set pretty heavily at this level. So, but it is what it is, right? Next up, The Adventures of T-Rex, about a bunch of mini T-Rexes in weird power armor in some kind of crime noir type futuristic anachronistic city. I don't even know. All I know is the show was for some reason kind of stupid fun, and I really enjoyed it. So to me, I think I'd have to put that one in great. I don't have any specific memories of it really, but I do have impressions. So I don't know. I really enjoyed that one. Always kind of did. Oh, was it just fairy tales? I wasn't sure if it was fairy tales or specifically Bible stories, but thanks for that, Saturday. So, yeah, did anybody else watch Adventures of T-Rex? Or am I kind of alone in that? There were like every other anthropomorphic superhero squad out there. I think there were 5 of them. Yeah, kind of a weird little crazy show, but a lot of fun. So, all right, and then we have a reappearance of a classic character in the 90s with The Adventures of Tintin. I never really got into Tintin, didn't read the comics or watch any of the old serialized cartoons or know much about that one. So I've watched it since, and it's fine, but holy cow, it's like a tame version of Johnny Quest, I guess. But oh, that's cool, Saturday. Maybe I will check it out then. I don't know. You've got a point there, Trek. Bonkers was indeed another show. So, yeah, sorry if anybody out there puts Tintin higher on their list. Doesn't really have any nostalgia or anything for me. So I'm going to leave it there. Next up, and I'm sure that this will be up for debate in some circles, but in my opinion, we come to our first best of the best from the 90s with Aeon Flux. That show was ridiculously cool. I was absolutely the target audience for that when it came out. Just so much fun and craziness, and I mean, I don't even know. I don't think I'd ever seen a show where the main character got killed in every episode until Aeon Flux came out, but It was just weird, but so good. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen the animated movie. That was pretty good. But like I said, I didn't really have any attachment to it. Didn't ever really read the comics or watch any of the old serials. So, uh, yeah, Tintin didn't really do much for me, but I can see where the appeal would have been. But so next up, we have what I would consider to be another great adaptation. The Aladdin cartoon was one of Disney's best from this decade. It was a great continuation of the movies and just a lot of fun. So I think it really stood out above a lot of the other chaff from the time. What's Jean Grey syndrome? Could mean so many things because it gets resurrected so often. Is that? All right. So now we have a Don Bluth series, a spinoff of the All Dogs Go to Heaven movies with an animated series, which was, pretty fun, but it was a pale imitation of what we got in the actual films. So, yeah, I watched a lot of Beavis and Butthead. I was in high school when it came out, so everybody watched it when when I was that age. But yeah, the Aladdin game also was a lot of fun and really kind of painfully difficult. I don't know. Anybody have the PS4 collection with Aladdin and Lion King on it? And re-experience that pain and suffering from that time. But also, does anybody think that All Dogs deserves to be higher? Because, yeah, I think, again, comparatively to the All Dogs animated movies, it wasn't quite as great. But, all right. She really did. Every episode, something new. It was like a spy versus, yeah, kind of spy versus spy type thing. Remember Spy versus Spy from Mad Magazine? I love those things. But all right, so Amazing Adventures, that one is the Bible stories, I think. But yeah, that one, I've never seen that one either, or this Amazing Animals, or this Angela Anaconda, which, if I'm being perfectly honest, it looks creepy as hell. So, but yeah, so I think these two at least were geared definitely way younger than my uh, than my age group at the time. So gonna have to put that down and never watched and never going to. Yeah, no, the paper cutout animation style with the odd, almost black and white desaturated color. Oh, no, don't want to watch that. Thanks. All right. So now we have another series that falls into that same category as Two Stupid Dogs with the Angry Beavers. More of the kind of slapsticky, lowbrow humor stuff that just never really did it for me. I never really caught on in my brain and was not something I watched more than a few episodes of. So this one, I'd even put that lower, probably down to meh. So, you know what? I'd probably put Two Stupid Dogs down in meh too. Neither one of them. Actually, I came to South Park very late. I was totally anti-South Park for quite a while. Oh, thanks, Slinky. But yeah, I did not do South Park for a very long time. So Well, the Secret Squirrel sections were good. I think I have Secret Squirrel separately on here, though, so I'm okay breaking that out from Two Stupid Dogs and dealing with them as separate entities. I'm sure it probably would. All right, next up is Animal Crackers, and I don't think I saw this one when it was out. But yeah, I don't even think I've gone and tried to watch any since then. So if anybody has any Animal Crackers love, then yeah, let me know, because I'm really not very familiar with it. Ren and Stimpy had its moments, but again, a lot of the gross out humor in that show, just not really for me. And when I did come to it 10, I went back and started from the beginning because yeah, there's just too much South Park to jump in late in the series. But all right. So is there any doubt about this next one, or does everybody agree that this is yet another best of the best for the 90s? The Animaniacs is probably, honestly, one of the top 10 from the decade. Just such a good show. So well done. And this one had humor that I actually did connect with, so definitely belongs up there. Hey, Al, nice to see you. But we'll see what I have to say about Blue's Clues momentarily. But next up, Arthur. I never watched this. I was not the right age group. I watched it with my kids when they were young, and from that perspective, I thought Arthur was pretty good. It was worse when DW was on screen, but overall, I thought Arthur was a pretty good kid show, and it wasn't one that made me want to gouge my eyes and ears out. So, hey Xavier, welcome. Yeah, Warner had some good cartoons back then, definitely. So, a good point, Slinky. Yeah, come. Feel free to come join the Discord and talk about this sort of thing all the time over there. We've got plenty of variations on different discussions. So, you know who was worse than DW? Was Ruby from Max and Ruby. Holy cow. If I ever wanted to see a rabbit get watership downed, it was it was her. All right. So next up, another one of the weirdest shows from the decade with the animated adaptation of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And this one I thought was pretty great. But then again, I love Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It's absolutely stupid, but how can you not love it? So the animated series with the humanoid tomato girl was just kind of hilarious. So nope, wrong DW. That DW is awesome. The other one, not so much. And Gosling was, yeah, definitely nowhere near as bad as Arthur's sister. But so next up, we have Avengers United They Stand. So I'm not sure if everybody remembers this one, but it was one of the weirdest incarnations of the Avengers that they'd ever put out there, with Ant-Man as the leader and everybody wore these armored suits. But honestly, that kind of made it cool. The big three weren't in it at all, so it had some really great underrepresented characters like Wonder Man and Tigra. I thought it was an awesome cartoon, honestly. I know it gets a lot of hate, but not for me. I really liked that one. So, hey, no, nice to have you here. But, well, they were all kind of weirdly designed. I'd almost call it anime inspired, or maybe not anime inspired, but like they were chasing that WB superhero aesthetic, right? So I don't know, but I really enjoyed this one, so I'm putting it in great. And then we've got Baby Huey, which I didn't really enjoy. Not my thing. That one to me was meh. So yeah, Mighty Ducks is on here. We'll get to them. Definitely did not forget that one. I think I'm honestly pretty good on the 90s stuff. I spent a good deal more time on it because I worked on it as I was putting the 80s together. So, but all right, Back to the Future. Good cartoon. Doesn't hold up to the movies in even the smallest capacity. No contest there, right? So, and honestly, the character animations were just bizarre. But yeah, the live action Christopher Lloyd sections were amazing. I'd put those up way higher because they were a lot of fun. But the cartoon itself, just good. And then Bad Dog, no idea. Never watched it. I don't even know. I think that only got a handful of episodes, right? Well, I don't know, Dorlax, and if Christopher Lloyd makes everything better. Did you see him in Piranha 3D? Yeah, that one, not so good. But all right, so Bureau of Alien Detectors, another one of the team of specialized people. It was like militarized Men in Black. Yeah, the Bill Nye as the research assistant was great too. Yeah, if we separated out the live action section, live action would go up in awesome, but the cartoon itself, not as awesome. But I did like Bureau of Alien Detectors. That was fun. Sending Mother One up against the Borgs. She's already half assimilated, you know. But all right. So one of the shortest animated series from the decade, Barnyard Commandos. This one was only 6 episodes long, and was supported by a rather robust toy line, but nothing really special about it. Character designs they're pretty cool. It was a fun show, but it didn't get much higher than fun. So here's another couple of them that should be easy predictions, right? I'm sure everyone here would mutiny if I didn't put both Batman Beyond and Batman the Animated Series up in best of the best. So I didn't know that Saturday. I'll have to see if I can track down the rest of the episodes that didn't air here. But yeah, if I tried to put these even one step down on the list, I'm sure everyone would just bail on this live stream because that would invalidate every opinion I've ever had, probably. So don't even think there's much else that needs to be said about either Batman or Batman Beyond. But next up, Battletech, which I thought was a pretty great show. The CGI quality of the actual battle scenes, which were even worse than the MechWarrior games, have to go a little lower. Knock it down a little lower for me. But Battletech was a fun series. Definitely not the best mech-based series of the decade. We'll get to that later, but still fun, definitely. I'll have to see if I can run those through my little AI subtitler. But hey, so here's some lowbrow humor that I did enjoy more than the others with Beavis and Butthead. I can't put it in best of the best, relax, and I know that it was big part of high school for me because everybody watched it and everybody loved it. But I don't know, just looking back, I can't do it. I can't put it any higher. I thought it was pretty great at the time. I think I've just outgrown it. So to me, well, this is true. I can't argue with the pop culture impact or the sociological effects of the show. It definitely had a huge reach to it, but as for my overall enjoyment and how I feel it compared to the other shows of the decade, nah, great's as best as I can do. So, all right. So here is our next animated series based on a live action movie with Beethoven. And I was out of the age group by the time that hit. Never saw the Beethoven movies until probably much later. And so, yeah, I'm not going to own up to having much of an opinion on this one at all. Just going to put it down here and never seen. And now we come to our first tokusatsu, American tokusatsu. Got to be careful there. I don't want to set 10 off. But yeah, same here, Slinky. They were definitely younger than I was watching at the time. So, but our first Americanized version of a tokusatsu with the big bad Beetleborgs. And if for no other reason than that freaking ghost genie guy, this one goes in meh. I am not a Beetleborgs guy. And yeah, 10, as we can see, your 10's not much of a Beetleborgs guy either. But then again, what American tokusatsu do you enjoy, 10? Other than maybe some Power Rangers? Any of them? Huh. I don't think I've still actually checked out any of the Beethoven movies. I might have seen the first one, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Power Rangers is on here, Trek. So is Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad and Tattooed Teenage Robot Fighters from Beverly Hills and VR Troopers. But yeah, plenty of stuff on here. So next up, and I almost agree with you, Jorlaxon. I'd put Big Guy and Rusty just one spot below Best of the Best because I don't think it quite stands up to the Batman series of the time. But what a great show, right? I just put the Rangers under one blanket title. So yeah, they're just represented by one entry on this list. Are you cringing at Big Guy 10? Big Guy and Rusty was freaking amazing. What a great show. So if you're cringing at it, you and I are going to have to agree to disagree on that one because gotta love that. I know there's probably plenty of people out there who think it's an Astro Boy ripoff, but yeah, is what it is, right? So, okay, good. Glad we're on the same page there. Similar to Biker Mice from Mars. Biker Mice, both the 2002 and the 1990, right? 1992 and 1996. I think there were two different releases of that. So, yeah, okay. Glad it was that one. I'm pretty sure that I know you're standing on all of this Spawn. But yeah, I like some of those new action figures that are coming out for Biker Mice and Silverhawks and a lot of the other titles from back then. But Biker Mice was one of the best series to carry on the Turtles mantles of all of the anthropomorphs of the time. So definitely got to put that one up in awesome. Super fun show. Here we have another adaptation of a live-action movie with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, which was actually a lot of fun. This was one of the better animated adaptations of a series, in my opinion. So I would put it up above a lot of the others at the time. They did a good job sticking to the kind of the theme of the Bill and Ted franchise. So I think it scores pretty well. And hey, any cartoon that has that kind of voice talent in it, especially George Carlin, how can you argue, right? All right, so here's a Blue's Clues, which, yeah, I know it's not fully animated, but it's animated enough that I included it. And again, definitely out of the age group for this one, but watched a ton of it when my kids were born. So I actually thought this one was pretty great compared to some of the kids shows that they watched. My oldest kid was born in 2001, so I got to put up with a lot of Caillou and that sort of thing. Blue's Clues blew Caillou and those other shows away. So I'd say Blue's Clues is pretty great comparatively. I'm going to stack it up against the other preschool shows of the time. But all right, so here is one that I don't really know what to do with. I liked the show, and I thought that it was quite a lot of fun. The whole concept of it felt very Rugrats-y. So I'm really kind of waffling between good and great for this one. Okay, I'll own it. I'll put it in great, but yeah, I thought the show was a lot of fun. The imaginative journeys of the preschool age kid, pretty interesting stuff. And now we have a fully animated take on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I don't know. I know it's not the same, but it was very similar in my brain to the Who Framed Roger Rabbit concept. I didn't watch a lot of this one. It came out after I'd already joined the Army, so don't have much nostalgia for it, but good animation. It was a fun enough show. One of the weaker entries in the Disney lineup. Nice. I don't know. I'm just going to have to put this one as baseline. To me, it was pretty decade standard, but oh, that's probably why I felt it was similar. But sorry to anybody who might have more of a connection with Bonkers. So next up, we have a intelligent robots AI series, kind of a weird take on the same idea behind Mighty Orbots, with a young inventor and his powerful squad of personality-driven robots. I didn't really see any of this back then, so I don't know on this one. The concept even now doesn't really do much for me as far as how it's presented in this particular series. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it down here and never watched. It's not one that really I saw as a kid, but some of it's fun enough now from my current perspective and what I've seen today, but I don't really have enough of a foundation on that to put it anywhere higher. I do have quite a foundation on Doug, and that was a pretty great show at the time. I watched that when it first premiered, and out of the 3 in the original Nicktoons lineup, that was, I think, probably the best. I like Doug more than Rugrats or Ren and Stimpy, honestly. But then the Disney acquisition came, and I don't know if I ever saw it after it became a Disney property, but I liked it when it was a Nicktoon. So, next up is the Brothers Grunt. Again, I'm going to have to go back to my lowbrow toilet humor opinions on this one. I mean, freaking... Oh yeah, what's Mrs. Slinky think about Doug? Really, you were a Brothers Grunt fan, Relaxin'? I just can't get into it. And I didn't realize Doug was on USA. Huh. I thought it was always one of the 3 Nicktoons anchors, but interesting. Yeah, I like Doug a lot. I wouldn't put it as best of the best, but definitely a great show. And next year, if we do our our Dr.Animaction and Friends episode of top 5 90s crushes for Valentine's Day, Patty Mayonnaise might be on my list. So we'll have to see. But yeah, Brothers Grunt, absolutely not my thing. I mean, any show that has a roll of toilet paper as their logo, just not going to do it for me. I don't like the gross out stuff, so that one can stay down here. Speaking of gross out, we have Bruno the Kid. I know it's not really gross out, but the whole concept behind a young Bruce Willis animated series, I don't know, not my thing either. It wasn't really well done. Wasn't a great concept. Oh, cool. Thanks, Thorn. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, no opinions on Patty, huh, 10? But this list is actually coming together a lot more evenly distributed than the 80s one. I was not expecting that. So interesting. But next up, we have another awesome series from the decade because Bucky O'Hare was great. Not to mention the fact that he made an appearance in the freaking Ninja Turtles toy line, or maybe he just appeared in the same scale as the Ninja Turtle toys, so he got to be involved in their adventures. But yeah, Bucky was great. Loved Bucky O'Hare in the Toad Wars. So it's gonna not quite hit the best of the best, but it definitely gets up here. You weren't really into Bucky too much, Trek? And to each their own. Oh yeah, I know Usagi was in the line, and that was cool. I couldn't remember if Bucky actually made the toy line or not, but then I remembered he had his own toy line. So yeah, my bad. But Bugs and Daffy, again, you guys saw in the 80s streams that the classics are fine with me. I like them well enough, but they're nothing special in my book. So I'm going to drop this one here. And Bump in the Night, that was a claymation series that I don't think I ever saw. It was a full-length version of the CBS bumpers from the era. But yeah. Yeah, Toxic Crusaders and Bucky was a pretty good lineup for that channel. I liked that they were on pretty much in the same little block. So definitely good time. I did not realize Bucky was birthed out of a Star Wars prototype, but that's kind of cool. Looks like he would have been birthed out of Marvel's 80s Rocket Raccoon line, but which was an awesome miniseries. If anybody hasn't seen or read the original Rocket Raccoon miniseries, Marvel re-released it in a one-shot, so it's all in one comic. Track it down. Awesome miniseries. So, all right. Next is Richard Scarry. I'm very minimally aware of Richard Scarry. I saw a couple of the books when I was a kid, but not something I ever got hugely invested in. Don't really know much about it, and absolutely never recall having watched the show. So, really, Bucky was co-created by Hama. That's cool. Very nice. Got to meet him not too long ago. That was quite a great experience for me. I enjoyed that quite a bit. But here's another one I haven't ever seen, I don't think. Sea Bear and Jamal. Just not familiar with it from back then. So can't say much about that one. The next one I can say much about, though. And I can say that Cadillacs and Dinosaurs was freaking great. Yeah, that'd be... Oh, why do I keep saying great? Yeah, awesome. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs was better than great. One of the best cartoons based on a comic book, or cartoons based on a video game based on a comic from the decade. So, yeah, such a cool show. The animation in that show was freaking awesome, too. So, yeah, maybe if Sea Bear had been talking about Funky Cole Medina, then I'd have liked the show more. But no, I never actually saw this one. So, Capital Critters, never saw it when it aired. Seen it since, and if I were to base it on what I've seen since then, it was meh. Yeah, I don't know. Didn't really do it for me, but in fairness of putting it where it fell for me in that decade, I'm going to put it in never watched. So, not one I've seen from back then. All right, so next one is probably another one of the hardest ones we're going to have to deal with this decade. Does Captain Planet go in awesome or best of the best? That's kind of a tough one because I don't know. We all watched it, right? Like all the time. It was, yeah, probably awesome. I agree, Dorlaxon. It was such a interestingly fun show. So, yeah, I could see great too, Slinky. Some of the bad guy designs weren't the best in that show, right? But and the Planeteers themselves were okay, but can we all agree the best version of Captain Planet's the one from Rick and Morty? Because I really enjoyed that episode of Rick and Morty. This is true. He has not, in over 30 years, taken pollution down to zero. I'd say that's a big failing on his part. All right. This one I'm interested to hear. How many of you have actually seen it? Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys. Because I never saw it back then when it was on, but I've watched the entire series since, and I think it's almost on par with Biker Mice. Not quite as good, but it's a whole lot of fun and has some pretty great characters in it. So if you haven't seen Captain Simeon, I'd recommend trying to track it down. It's a great anthropomorphic superhero-y show. So what's up, 10? Yeah, but Dorlaxin, Captain Simeon had the split personality orangutan scientist who was half scientist, half bumpkin, and also the gorilla that was a pacifist until he went into rage mode. Just there were some really great characters in that show. So, but yeah, if you haven't seen Space Monkeys, check it out. It's pretty great. Oh, you're missing out on that one too, Joshua. I'm sorry. But yeah, Mummy's Alive, another great show. We'll get to that one later. Oh, okay. I see. Got it, 10. So next up, Cartoon Sushi, a variety show, skit show, whatever you want to call it. Had its hits, had its misses. It was what it was, right? So, don't know. I'm teetering between good and meh. I think it missed more than it hit personally, so maybe meh on that one. But it really depended on the episode, so we'll put it in good because it probably maintained the decade baseline, but not any better than that. So, Cat Dog. This was another, it fits right there with Angry Beavers, Two Stupid Dogs, that whole same thing, right? Yeah, I've seen Arc 2. That was an interesting show. But Cat Dog, nah, that one, like I said, right there with Two Stupid Dogs, right there with Angry Beavers. Not my thing. And now we have another preschool show that I never watched, and my kids missed also. So Pebbles and Bam Bam, I don't really have anything to say about it. What I saw of it when I was looking at the animated 90s series of videos, I wasn't impressed, so not going to go any higher than never watch because I probably never will. But so next up, Celebrity Deathmatch. This one, okay, I probably just have a soft spot for it because of the era and how old I was back then. But I loved Celebrity Deathmatch. What a ridiculously fun show. Yeah, I don't know if I'd put it quite in best of the best, but I'm definitely putting it up here, Dorlaxin. I loved looking forward to seeing what matches were going to come up every week, and it was so over the top, just just a lot of fun. So that's another one. If you haven't seen any Celebrity Deathmatch, I think you can watch individual matches here on YouTube. So check that one out. So here's another haven't seen with T3. I really know almost nothing about it. And same with Chucklewood Critters. Neither one of them hit my radar. So not much there for me to base any opinion off of. Couldn't even tell you what T3 is about. I know I researched it for the animated 90s. Can't remember. No idea. So, all right. So, the decade continues the 80s trend of making R-rated movies into animated series with Conan. And the first Conan was pretty great. But the Young Warriors, not as much so. Still fun, but not nearly as good. Yeah, I don't remember any of the specific episodes of Celebrity Deathmatch. I just remember watching the show pretty much all the time. Got a lot of blank spots in my memory from back then, so. But yep, I agree, Slinky. Very much so. The first Conan was a far better series, but the second one was still fun enough. So here's another one of that same tier. Two Stupid Dogs, Angry Beavers, Cat Dog, Cow and Chicken. They're all right there together for me. I really didn't have much investment in any of them. I did think Red Guy was interesting in Cow and Chicken because, we actually got Satan on TV for all intents and purposes, but it wasn't enough to boost the series overall, in my opinion. So we're just going to leave it there. Next up, Cowboys of Moo Mesa. That one was pretty great. Another of the pretty well done anthropomorphic heroes of the time. So the concept of them being mutated humans that got stuck on a mesa that shot up into the air. I did like I Am Weasel, but I couldn't get through enough Cow and Chicken to really justify getting to I Am Weasel in most parts. So, yeah, the Moo Mesa Turtles crossovers were interesting. So, or were they mutated cows? I thought they were mutated humans. I don't remember, but I'll take your word for it, Dinobolt, because I certainly can't recall specifically. All right, so now we have a cartoon based on a easy bake oven for gummy creatures that was released in the 90s with creepy crawlers. What a weak concept, and the cartoon isn't really any better. Not one that I really think deserves to be any higher on the list. So I remember the candy maker more than I remember the cartoon. So and honestly, even better than I Am Weasel. I personally liked I Are Baboon better than I Am Weasel, but that's just me. So Critic, John Lovitz. I don't know. I never got into Critic much. I guess it was fine. It was pretty decade standard in my opinion from what I did see. So I'll just put it there in our middle baseline. I should probably revisit. I might enjoy it more now as a fully grown adult, even though I guess technically at the end of the 90s I was a fully grown adult, but as a junior enlisted guy in the military, how adult was I really? 10, you can probably answer that. So, all right. So, next up, Crow. And yeah, I saw that when I was making the animated 90s that it was a children's television workshop series. That was pretty interesting. I never actually saw it back then myself. I have seen a couple episodes since. It was pretty fun with the talking woolly mammoth and the whole thing being kind of told in flashback. Pretty cool show now, looking back at it, but didn't really see it so much back then. And yeah, sorry, Dinobolt. I was pretty much aged out of these at the time they were released, so the humor really didn't hit for me. But that's why they're there. All right. Since Mel's not here tonight, we can probably put Cyber 6 way down here, right? No, I'm kidding. We would definitely get some feedback on that. But honestly, the Cyber 6 cartoon, it was really pretty great. The animation was really well done in that Warner Brothers kind of superhero style. Yeah, just a overall pretty awesome show. I liked the entire environment of it. It felt more dark and gritty than a lot of other shows at the time. Just a lot of fun. So I'm going to put Cyber 6 up here in awesome. Uh-oh, what are we gurring at now, 10? Now what did I do? Oh. Why is Doug on here twice? Oh, this was the Disney version of Doug that I put up here. This was the All New Adventures of Doug. Like I said, I didn't really see it much when it hit Disney, but the Nick version needs to go up here on 8. Oh. Yeah, that one's on the list too. We'll get to that one. So now we get to a spin-off of Beavis and Butthead, which, if you ask me, way better than Beavis and Butthead itself. Like, leagues better. Oh, really? You weren't much of a Daria fan? Huh. I don't know. I like Daria, and I definitely like Jane. So I thought Daria was a pretty awesome show. And a lot smarter than Beavis and Butthead. So gets a higher position for me. Oh, thanks, Romega. I wasn't in much of a hurry, but I'm glad that you've validated that I don't need to be. Although Slinky said it was good, so I don't know. You two will have to fight it out. I have no dog in the race, as it were. All right. Next up, 10. Where can I put this? It's not going to make you upset. We have an adaptation of a video game that's far inferior to an anime version that was released around the same time and really misrepresented the characters quite a bit. I honestly didn't like the animated series take on the Darkstalkers. I think that's probably a good call, Dorlax, and I think it was pretty decade baseline, but yeah, no better than baseline. I don't think it was meh because it was still, as far as if it were just an isolated living in a bubble action cartoon and wasn't tied to the game series or anything, I think it would rate higher for me. But yeah, I think it misrepresented the characters from the game, and the game was pretty awesome. So gonna have to leave it down there. All right. Next up, here goes another one that we're gonna have to put some thought into. Does Darkwing Duck go in awesome, or does it go in best of the best? Because it's not my personal favorite of the Disney afternoon, but it's a great freaking show. So for me, I don't think it would hit best of the best. But it comes pretty close, right? It's pretty great and deserves its spot way up here toward the top. But I have to be a little choosy with best of the best. I can't put everything in there. It's gonna be super full at the end of this. Hey, speaking of best of the best, I don't know why this is on there twice, but we have the original 90s broadcasts of DBZ. So, do we judge it as Dragon Ball Z, or do we judge it by those original English dubs? How do we rate Dragon Ball Z from this era? That's the question, right? So, we're probably talking about the original Toonami version. So, yeah. Do we rate it based on what I know now and how I feel about Dragon Ball Z? No, 10, you need to speak up in this one. Well, maybe not too loud. I think 10 would probably put it down to meh, but for a entry point for a lot of us probably to anime, even that first release was probably pretty great, right? So gonna put that one there. Did Dragon Ball GT air here in the 90s Saturday? I don't remember if it did or not. So this Dragon Ball Z, I think, was the other release from the 90s. We got the Toonami release, and then didn't we get the Hawaiian release of Dragon Ball Z like a few years before that, 10, or am I imagining things? Because I think we got more of the raw DBZ released on those local Hawaiian channels earlier in the decade. Which I think may be why I had it on the list twice. But I'm sure that if that's the case, then this one probably gets more of an awesome because this was more traditional, more of a closer adaptation of the original Japanese version. So, but yeah, I had a roommate when I went to aviation school that rushed home every day to watch Dragon Ball Z. So watched it quite a bit in the 90s, but yeah, as long as we're already on this, let's go ahead and put the original Dragon Ball up here as well, because they pretty much belong together, right? So all right, now we have the 90s version of Dennis the Menace, which was okay, but didn't hold up at all to the 80s version, in my opinion. So pretty much decade baseline on that one. Same here with Detention. It was a fun enough show. Not one I watched at the time, but enjoyable. This one, however, I watched all the freaking time when it came out. That was another of the higher ones on my list. So Dexter's Lab gets a slot here in great. And hot take here, but Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars series was one of the best pieces of Star Wars released in the 90s, in my opinion. So, yeah, do with that what you will. But I really thought that those Clone Wars shorts were just freaking the best. They were so well done. Enjoyed those quite a bit. So, Dino Babies, never really saw. Again, well below my age group at the time. But Donkey Kong Country I did see, and that one was, I would say Donkey Kong Country deserves a great. It was a hell of a lot of fun. Good show. Had some pretty great 3D animation for the time. But, oh yeah, I remember when TNT started airing Dexter's Lab. But, yeah, I got to watch it when it when it was first airing on Nick and watched a whole ton of it. So I know Dinobolt, unfortunately, I couldn't put them on this list, but had to mention that how great they were. I guess I did say the 90s, though, right? So, but all right. Now we have an interesting entry from Jim Henson with Dog City. So, kind of a cool fourth wall breaking crime noir. I don't even know how to describe this one, but it was a lot of fun. Cartoonist who could directly interact with his character, who was a detective in a crime noir story. So it was a dog drawing another dog. Yeah, weird show, but definitely a fun show. An interesting property for a Henson release, I thought. But next up is another one I really never saw. Adventures of Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. But yeah, it's hard to, I don't know. Don Quixote's a hard one, right? So, but plus we had Dog Quixote, which was really kind of fun. I don't know. No, the Dog Quixote was the anime import Dorlax, and this Don Quixote, I think, was a European import. So, I don't know. I might have to go back and check that one out. So, Quack Attack, re-releases of old Donald the Duck shorts. Or Donald Duck, I guess, not Donald the Duck, but sits right there with my ongoing opinion of the classic characters. Double Dragon, another cartoon adaptation of a video game. I gotta say, the cartoon was way better than the live action movie. No matter how much I love Mark DeCostas, he could not save the Double Dragon live action movie. But the cartoon was pretty fun. Even if they did have kind of a weird design when they activated their dragon powers that never appeared anywhere in the video game. Still, fun cartoon. So, I think it gets. I can justify putting that one great. Plus, they had a toy line that reused a lot of the original molds of the Chuck Norris Karate Commandos toys, and that was pretty cool. Yeah, I know that was kind of cool in the cartoon Saturday, but until they make an animated series, which is just the brothers walking around punching goons and beating up random street thugs, and I don't care. No, I'm kidding. It's a lot of fun. So, all right, Dr. Katz. I hate Squiggle Vision. It's gonna have to go in the meh for me. It might be the best show ever made. I won't ever know. I can't get past the Squiggle Vision. So, however, Dragonflies. What a weirdly fun show. Especially since it came out in parallel with Sky Dancers, because the boys got Dragonfly toys and girls got Sky Dancer toys. I don't know. It was kind of fun seeing I like flying stuff, so to me it was great because flying knights and dragon riders. Gonna have to put that one up here, but I'd be open to everybody else's opinions on it. To me, it gets up here though. So yeah, exactly. 90s love of Z and Extreme. So Detective Droopy, Another kind of middle of the road 90s series. What, 10? You have a problem with people flying via the power of spinning blades around their neck? That doesn't sound physically feasible to you. But anybody else have an opinion on Droopy? I'm happy to hear it, but the Droopy character has never really done much for me, so no doubt. All right, Duckman. So Duckman, that one was pretty good. I think it was above average for the decade. Not one I got to see very much because I was very much active military at the time, and between being in the field and being on duties and stuff, I didn't see a lot of Duckman, but I still thought that what I saw of it was above average. So let's go through. Let's go through the ad and we'll call it a night, okay? Really, Ed, and Eddie's missing? I could have swore it was in here somewhere. Okay, I'll have to for the next episode, but all right. So next up, probably the worst of the Jim Carrey cartoons, even worse than Ace Ventura. I liked the Dumb and Dumber movie, but oh my god, that animated series. It's no, just no. Not going to go any higher than meh for me. And oh no, this is not good. 10. Check it out. Eagle Riders, the absolute worst representation of Gatchaman to ever air in any area at any point in the history of time. Even worse than Gatchaman crowds. I hated Eagle Riders. The characters had the worst names. They murdered my poor Phoenix. Oh my god. Yeah. Eagle Riders. Not going to get very high on my list at all. But next up, we have what I think was probably one of the best animated adaptations of a video game from the decade with Earthworm Jim. Earthworm Jim was more fun than Double Dragon. I would say probably even a little more fun than Donkey Kong. I'd put it here in great still. Not quite awesome, but definitely one of the better animated series based on an existing property from the 90s. So I think up there is fair enough for me. Yeah, no doubt. I can't believe that Gatchaman Fighter took the Phoenix away in the first place. That freaking white bird-shaped ship was such a piece of crap. Let's just forget that Gatchaman ever went through that phase, okay? All right. I do have Sonic Underground on the list, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. I'll have to double check that one. So Eek was, out of all the comedic shows, probably one of the better ones, and I did think came in a little higher than the decade average, and it had the Thunder Lizards, which, brought it up even higher in my opinion, even though I think maybe have the Terrible Thunder Lizards on here as their own. I have them as their own thing. And honestly, the Thunder Lizards were better than Eek itself, but yeah. I thought SpongeBob came out in the 2000s. Wasn't SpongeBob in the 2000s, or am I imagining things? Monster in My Pocket was 80s. I don't know. All right, I'll check all these things. But yeah, I was on a roll too. I was doing so well. Anyway, I'll get them added on there. All right, everyone else, say what you will. To me, Exo Squad, best the best. It was one of my absolute most favorite animated series from the 90s. I don't know. It was the most mature show for kids, like the spiritual successor of Robotech in my brain. Just absolutely great. So, Exo Squad's the best. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's really cool. Thanks, Ten. I'll make sure I add it to the set before we get to the S's in a future episode. All right, so here's one of our first extreme series of the 80s, Extreme Dinosaurs, which actually just got a Blu-ray release, interestingly. But this series was another weird one. A lot of fun, though. A little better than the decade standard, but definitely a weird show. Thought it was a lot of fun, but yeah, I think a lot of us can agree that Extreme Dinos was very fun. So, and yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one, Dorlaxon. I would say Extreme Ghostbusters was awesome. It obviously wasn't real Ghostbusters level, but the whole concept of Egon going out and recruiting a new team of younger people to carry on the Ghostbusters legacy, like, it's kind of the entire concept of the newer Ghostbusters movies, right? So, no, I thought it was cool, a lot of fun, and I don't know, good cartoon, just overall. Next up, Family Dog. This was a kind of a failed pilot type show. It never really got any traction, and what I saw of it, I don't really want anything to do with. It was fine as far as animation, but the characters were just so unlikable, man. I hated everybody in that show. So, yeah. Okay, so next up we have to start getting into a touchy subject, because everybody remember those early 90s Marvel shows? They had Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Hulk, Silver Surfer. Well, this was one of those. The Fantastic Four. Animation, not great. I did like the fact that they stuck to classic Fantastic Four stories, even though they really felt dated even in the 90s. So I'm kind of on the fence with this one. I'm not going to put it any higher, but I'm kind of vacillating here between good and great. It was pretty decade standard, I think, but yeah, I don't know. I think that this one has to go in good. The other Marvel series of the time were probably all better than it, but at least it didn't have Herbie, so that's something. But yeah, we'll leave that one there. So next up we have, I don't know what the words in front of it are, but a Sinbad version, Sinbad cartoon from the decade. I don't think I ever saw it. And that's another one that if mine were here tonight, we'd have an argument for putting it up higher on the list, but alas, for me, I can't put it much higher than that because I don't recall ever seeing it back then. Next up, another Don Bluth production, and this one is a spin-off of the sequel to American Tail, which was actually pretty fun, a little younger skewing than my tastes were leaning toward at the time, so I didn't watch much of it. What I did catch, it was pretty much in that same category as All Dogs Go to Heaven, with quality animation, decent enough stories, but yeah, pretty decade standard, I think. But that's my thoughts on it. Here we have another one that, just like Capital Critters, pretty much failed right out of the gate. Didn't really get any traction in the 90s, but it was Fish Police, which I don't know. It was, I don't know why it didn't get any traction. Probably because it was children's cartoon decade standard, but it was geared toward adults. Nobody was going to buy into that, I don't think. So we'll just put it there at the decade standard. Don't remember Dorlax and oh, John Ritter was in it? Huh. Okay. Don't think it could have saved it though. All right. Now we have another action series with the 90s teenage Flash Gordon. And not the best retelling, not the best reimagining, pretty much decade standard. Put it there right in the middle where it can't do anybody any harm. It was fun enough, I guess, but nothing special. Next, we have an adaptation of a newspaper cartoon series in For Better or For Worse. And I guess the placement of this one is really going to depend on how well you liked the comic strip, because it was very, very faithful to that comic strip. I thought it was pretty well done animation-wise, had some decent storylines, so I'd be willing to put it a little above the decade standard. Overall, a decently well done series. So I would agree with that 10. The Filmation, the 1980 Flash series was pretty great, and Defenders of the Earth was pretty awesome. So this one paled in comparison to both those other ones. Yeah, that. See, my kids never cared about Franklin either, which is the only way I really would have ever watched it. They never really got into it, and the couple episodes that they did watch, even they didn't really appreciate. So to me, Franklin's a meh. Not one of the better kid shows out there. There were so many to choose from that it wasn't difficult to find one that was more interesting. So, well, yeah, Thorne, I can definitely understand if you were in the age group that it might have appealed to you. Never got any traction in my house. So for me and my family, not really anything special there. So, yeah, Freakazoid, another WB release of the decade, and I agree with you, Dorlax, and Freakazoid was pretty awesome. It was like the weirdest combination of Beetlejuice and a superhero ever. Just a pretty fun, ridiculous cartoon. So, if you like zany antics, Freakazoid is one not to be missed. That's yeah, the voice acting was great. I did love Ed Asner, just the best straight man to a crazy alternative character that I've ever seen. So, all right. So we'll finish off with one final animated adaptation of a live action series with Free Willy. Never saw the movie, never saw the cartoon. Can't imagine the cartoon was anything great, but I don't know. I'll leave that up to you all to decide, because it's not one I ever watched. Willy talked? Okay, that's interesting. But maybe if Free Willy had been under the influence of one of Doc Terror's musical controlled animal mind control devices, like in that episode of Centurions, that would have been cool. But fought a cyborg. Yeah, I think I remember that from my research for the animated 90s. But I don't know, maybe I'll have to go check out an episode. So, as a little preview of what's coming up for the rest of this series, because it looks like, honestly, we might have 2 more episodes of this sitting out there waiting to be done. And I'll add those couple of others that you all mentioned that I missed here. You can see what else we've got coming up, and there are probably a few on here that I'm sure you're already placing in your brains. So we'll have to see how what you all are thinking stacks up against what I was thinking and go from there. But I think we've probably gone enough for tonight, so let's call this one there. Like I said, this weekend I'm going to try to do a cartoonical analysis. I'll put a poll up, see which series y'all would like to see an analysis from, and I will also start working on getting what'll probably be part 1 of the animated 90s and film out. So hopefully by midweek next week. So those are on the docket. We'll see what else I get to next week, and we will pick this one up 2 weeks from now. Like I mentioned earlier, if you want to talk about any of this or have any debates over the placement, feel free to come join the Discord. We've got a lot of fun discussions going on over there, and I will get that tier ranking from the animated 80s and films updated with what I missed on that one, and put the link up so that everybody can take their own shot at it. I thought Jumanji was on here, but yeah, there he is. Okay, got it, Saturday. So if you all think of anything else that's missing from here other than what you already called me out on, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to make sure they get added, and hope to see you all in the next video. So thanks for watching tonight, everyone. Stay tuned and stay tuned, as in cartoons. Later.